Time Walk with Me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Time Walk with Me, the only YouTube channel not hosted by a secret lizard person. I am the Time Walker, and today we're looking at Sir Carah the Bold, the commander of a very unfriendly yet very budget-friendly deck. Sir Carah is a 3/3 red human knight with no evasion or keyword abilities. Despite the fact that she dies to removal, she still has some handy abilities. She can tap to deal 1 damage to any target, and when she or an instant or sorcery spell that you control deals damage to a player, you exile the top card of your library and play it that turn if you can. That means that if you can't play it that turn, it stays exiled forever. But if you have the mana and a lot of burn spells, you can end up chaining many of them together and deal a lot of damage. And if you enjoy reading words on paper about magic and fantasy, perhaps this video's sponsor will interest you.
For the crime of granting one man immortality, all the gods must die.
Emerson, McCloud and the Curse of Godhood. Available on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. Link in the description. Damage. Naturally, I included a lot of low-cost direct damage spells that can target an opponent or that affect an opponent so that they trigger Sir Carah. Call in a professional. Chain Lightning. This is a little bit like a lightning bolt, except that it's a sorcery, and if your target or your target's controller is playing red, they can shoot it right back at you. But most likely, this will just end up doing 3 damage for 1 red mana, and that's a good thing. Disintegrate. You can play this as a simple 2 mana, 1 damage spell to add to the storm/prowess counts, or you can pour a lot into it in the late game to finish someone off. Dragon's Approach. This spell hits everyone but you, and it might get you a dragon from your deck. It probably won't get you a dragon from your deck, but 9 damage for 3 mana is pretty good on its own. End the Festivities. This will wipe out any creature with 1 toughness and trigger Sir Carah for just 1 mana. Fireball. Fire Blast. If you time this right, this could end up being a very cheap addition to the storm count. If you're casting a bundle of spells in 1 turn, building up a big Grape Shot blast, you first cast your sorceries. Then cast Grape Shot and hold priority. Before it resolves, sacrifice 2 untapped mountains to cast this, but don't let it resolve just yet. Cast any other instants you have at your disposal, and then let them resolve. The last spells you cast will resolve first, and the last to resolve will be your Grape Shot, and it will count all the spells that resolve before it, including the sorceries that have already resolved. Hopefully now you have at least 1 dead opponent. Firebolt. This is basically Shock with flashback. You'll see Shock later in this list. Flames of the Firebrand. With this you can deal 1 damage to a player to trigger Sir Carah and use the other 2 on whatever you want. Fiery Flames of the Flaming Firebolt Beam Blast Explosion on Fire. I may have made this one up. Inescapable Blaze. Have you ever noticed that most blazes aren't all that difficult to escape? Well, this one's different. Lava Axe. Lightning Bolt. This one is a classic. 3 damage for 1 mana at instant speed, is very potent, and will likely not be repeated on any other spell without a downside. Lightning Strike. This is a fixed lightning bolt. I think it's still pretty good though. Pillar of Flame. It's a sorcery rather than an instant, but 2 damage for 1 mana isn't bad, especially since it exiles anything it kills. Play with Fire. 2 damage for 1 mana on an instant that lets you scry if you hit an opponent makes this a strictly better Shock. Radiating Lightning. Ranger's Firebrand. This is from the Lord of the Rings set. It's not quite as good as Shock, but it's still pretty good. Rift Bolt. This is a very slow lightning bolt, but if you time it right, it adds to the storm count without costing you any mana. Royal Eruption. Personally, I would only kick this spell if it was guaranteed to finish off an opponent. 3 damage for 2 mana is good enough for me. Seismic Wave. Shock. This is the original fixed lightning bolt, unless Lightning Strike came out first, but in any case, it's 1 mana for 2 damage at instant speed. Slaying Fire. I figure any spell that does more damage to a single target than it costs in mana is an efficient spell. This one does 4 for 3 as long as all the mana you spent was red. Stoke the Flames. The Fall of Krug. This kills a land and hurts its controller. Thud. Many of the cards in this deck have prowess, so the idea is to get one of them big and fling it at an opponent with Thud. Storm. Since you'll be chaining spells together, these spells might end up doing a lot. The only other mono-red storm spells that I know of do damage only to creatures or search your library for dragons and put them into play. This deck is focused on damaging players, and it only has a few dragons, so these spells are the only storm cards that I know of that fit into this deck. If you know of any others, I'd appreciate it if you left them in the comments. Empty the Warrens and Grape Shot. Prowess. These creatures benefit from you casting a large number of non-creature spells, because each one gives it +1/+1 until end of turn. Dwarven Forge Chanter, Goblin Wizardry, and Monastery Swiftspear. Dragons. I put in a few dragons because I put in 6 the dragon's approaches, plus dragons are cool. Hellkite Punisher, Rapacious Dragon, and Red Dragon. Destroy. This is where the deck gets very unfriendly. All the spells in this category destroy lands. None of it is mass destruction though, so it's not so bad. I just did this to ruin my opponent's day and make their lives worse. No big deal. Cleansing Wildfire, Craterize, Crumble to Dust, Demolish, Melt Terrain, and Tectonic Rift. Mana. I may have gone a little mana rock crazy, but I think that's a good thing. But tell me if you disagree. Burnished Heart, Commander Sphere, Fire Diamond, Honored Heirloom, Liquimetal Torque, Magnifying Glass, Mana Geode, Mind Stone, Ornithopter of Paradise, Prismatic Lens, Seer's Lantern,
Soul Ring,
and Spectral Searchlight. Other. Coal Stoker. This only ends up costing you 1 mana since it costs 4 but gives you back 3. That's useful when you're building up for a big storm spell. Collector's Vault. For net 1 mana, this lets you get rid of a spell from your hand to hopefully get something better. You can also build up treasures for spells later. Darksteel Pendant. This lets you scry for 1 mana every turn. Hearth Elemental. This could very well end up very cheap to cast, and the adventure is good when your hand is empty. Mana Geyser. Your opponents can help you to get more mana to take out a problematic player, creature, or planeswalker. Onaki Javelineer. And Throes of Chaos. This card is kind of fun, and it can help get that storm count up, especially late in the game when you don't need so many lands. Lands. I kept this fairly simple. It's just Mountains, Crystal Grotto. This is a free scry 1. It doesn't even come into play tapped, so you get a source of mana the same as any other decent land. In a multicolor deck it's even better, but here in mono red, the free scry and colorless mana makes it a valuable addition. And Path of Ancestry. So there we go, that is my Sir Carah the Bold deck. You'll notice that there aren't any rares in it, it's all just commons and uncommons. That's because I just felt like making a cheap deck. So enjoy, and I'll catch you next time.